Eclipsing expectations, rural Nebraska shines in the shadow of the sun. On Eclipse Eve, we look back at nature's fury from this past week as hail and flooding affect farmers. Plus, we'll see how consumer technology could help growers use less fertilizer in a high-tech way. And we head to a county fair they call the World's Fair. It seems the nation has eclipse fever these days. It was back-to-back storms that were nature's fury this past week. Farmers now assessing the damage. In Custer County, we saw corn knocked down to less than half its size. Bean crops beaten up by hail. Even pivots flipped over. In Custer County, the National Weather Service received reports of hail the size of tennis balls, plus winds up to 72 miles an hour, along with flooding. Now, farmers work to file insurance claims. One agent says farmers with high levels of crop insurance could, and we emphasize could, get $3.96 a bushel for corn above the current market price.
The storm is terrible, and we don't like storms. And we don't like storms this late in the season. The farmer has worked all summer long, got a lot of expense in it. The only thing that he doesn't have is the remainder of the irrigation costs and the harvest costs. But, you know, at $3.96 a bushel, he's going to make out all right.
That's one perspective on the storm. Extension experts agree farmers should call their insurance adjuster first. As for salvaging something from the crop, it could be tough. And that brings us to our poll question. What's been the biggest challenge of this growing season? Here's a look at the results of our non-scientific Twitter poll. No doubt about it, you tell us commodity prices have been the biggest frustration. Beyond that, weeds have been a struggle too, and drought coming in a distant third, but still a concern. The future is sunny side up as Grand Island welcomes a new chicken genetics operation. The goal, produce better birds whose offspring will produce billions of eggs.
They hatch in there, and then they go into a...
Eggs come in and chicks go out.
Open the door.
A Dutch company known as Hendricks is in the genetics business, and business is good with a major investment in central Nebraska.
Over $40 million infusion of capital into Grand Island and central Nebraska, where all the feeder barns are being built. So it's a great economic boost for all of us.
That's around $20 million for this state-of-the-art hatchery, plus 11 barns on area farms to support the work that's all about raising better birds.
What we do is we breed chickens. We actually look at the animals that we have, and then we crossbreed them, and we try to select for every generation a hen that is a little bit better than her mother.
The numbers are staggering. Hendricks will produce 25 million females a year. They'll ship day-old chicks across the country to commercial egg-laying operations, who will use those birds to lay around 10 billion eggs, 25 for every American.
Making a more efficient bird that uses less feed to produce the eggs.
Is this an exciting day or what?
Nebraska grows corn as well as anyone, and Governor Pete Ricketts says Hendricks aligns with his vision to grow the state through agriculture.
Their investment here will allow us to take the commodities we produce, like the corn, and be able to eventually turn it into these eggs and the chickens.
The CEO of the Dutch company says 2 years ago, Hendricks was unknown in Nebraska. Now it's planning a turkey hatchery in southeast Nebraska, all because the people of the Cornhusker State made them feel welcome.
All in all, it's just a big win for Grand Island and the whole central Nebraska.
Hendricks Genetics says Nebraska is a perfect fit. Nebraska has land and work ethic, and the state's strong agricultural heritage was also a factor. Leaders from Hendricks Genetics say a facility like this can't be built just anywhere. They have to feel welcome, and that's truly the case in Nebraska.
And that is something that we don't experience every day, because in the big towns, probably also in California or in New York, but also in Amsterdam and Paris, if we want to create a facility like this, we need to go through great lengths to get permits.
This is one of 3 hatcheries the company runs in the United States. The biosecure facility is shower in, shower out, and can be monitored remotely. Plus, they've contracted with farm families who have put up 11 barns in the area. A tumultuous week in the White House. In the midst of it all, the Trump administration beginning talks on NAFTA. The president has criticized the trade agreement both during his campaign and in the White House. U.S. negotiators will sit down with officials from Canada and Mexico in Washington. But they're facing a tight deadline because Mexico wants a deal done by the end of the year. NAFTA originally took years to negotiate, and experts say cutting a new agreement in 5 months is wishful thinking.
I have very serious concerns about NAFTA. NAFTA has been a catastrophe for our country. It's been a catastrophe for our workers and our jobs and our companies. They're leaving our country.
Nonpartisan congressional research concluded NAFTA did not lead to massive job losses in the U.S. Nebraska pork could soon be headed to Argentina. The White House says it has agreed to terms on a deal to export pork to that country for the first time in 25 years. In 1992, Argentina blocked U.S. pork imports, saying it had concerns about animal health. All frozen, fresh, and chilled pork can now be exported. That agreement came after Vice President Mike Pence met with the Argentinian president earlier this week. Loud booms heard for miles in Furnace County from the Egg Valley Co-op. Investigators working to figure out what caused a flash fire there. It happened at the dry fertilizer plant. The staff says the fire lasted only a moment in the leg of the fertilizer elevator. There were 3 or 4 people in the building at the time, but no injuries. It's the second incident in as many weeks for that co-op. Last week, a grain bin containing more than 1 million bushels of grain collapsed, spilling $4 to $5 million worth of corn.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks have been a little bit rough, but we're working our way through it, and we just, again, thankful that no one's been hurt in either incident, and so we'll continue to count our blessings there.
Egg Valley plans to have a bunker set up to help with harvest. Work on a replacement bin will begin in October. Off the shelf and onto the farm, technology can help growers use less fertilizer. Project Sense is a partnership between the University of Nebraska and several natural resources districts. They're using sensors that read the wavelength coming off the crop. It's connected to a sprayer and can adjust fertilizer on the fly.
It's basically a way to take real-time information that the crop gives us as to its level of stress and manage that variably according to the field. So ideally we're applying what nitrogen is needed, where it's needed, and that helps us be more efficient. That helps the environment, and it helps the farmers be more profitable as well.
What they found is there's a point of diminishing returns. Farmers can use less fertilizer and still produce a good crop and not waste money on unnecessary applications. We'll have much more on that Project Sense in just a moment, plus later how you can help us during the eclipse.